The aroma of freshly baked pastries wasn't enough to mask the tremor in Mrs. Muffintop's voice. "Pepper," she wheezed, her normally rosy cheeks drained of colour. "A most perplexing situation has arisen. My prized Snickerdoodle Surprise cookies, the centerpiece of the annual Cookie Carnival, have vanished." Pepper Willoughby, a wisp of a girl with pigtails the colour of spun sugar, straightened. Unlike other children in Crumbly Corners, a town where houses were frosted with icing and streets smelled faintly of cinnamon, Pepper wasn't enthralled solely by sweets. Her true passion lay in unraveling mysteries, her mind as sharp as the candied ginger adorning the gingerbread rooftops. The theft of the Snickerdoodle Surprises was no ordinary crime. These cookies, legendary for their ability to shift flavours with each bite, from gooey chocolate to tangy lemon and everything in between, were a closely guarded secret passed down through generations of Muffintops. To steal them was not just a culinary catastrophe, but an affront to the very foundation of Crumbly Corners. With a glint of determination in her hazel eyes, Pepper adjusted her magnifying glass, a repurposed chocolate bar wrapper ingeniously glued to an eyeglass frame. "Fear not, Mrs. Muffintop," she declared, her voice firm despite her 10 years. "The case of the crumbling cookies, as I shall name it, is officially underway." Her investigation began at Muffintop's bakery, a haven of sugary scents and swirling candy canes. Flour dusted the countertops like a delicate snowfall, and giant stainless steel mixing bowls gleamed under the overhead lights. Pepper surveyed the scene with meticulous focus. No smashed windows, no suspicious crumbs, just an unsettling silence where the tantalizing aroma of snickerdoodles had once lingered. The only peculiarity she noticed was a single oversized footprint by the cooling rack. It wasn't human, too large and round. Could it be a mischievous brownie gone rogue? Or perhaps a rogue sprinkle monster with a sweet tooth? Pepper frowned. The possibilities were as endless as the varieties of candy in Crumbly Corners. Undeterred, Pepper questioned Mrs. Muffintop further. "Did anyone visit the bakery recently? Anyone acting suspicious?" The baker tapped her chin thoughtfully. "Well, there was that new delivery gnome. He seemed awfully interested in the cookie recipe, muttering something about expanding his gummy worm repertoire." A light bulb flickered on in Pepper's mind. Delivery gnomes were notorious for their sweet-toothed tendencies and sticky fingers. "Thank you, Mrs. Muffintop. I know just where to start my search." Following a trail of what could only be described as glittery, rainbow-coloured dust, a sure sign of gnome activity, Pepper ventured deep into the gummy grove, a forest renowned for its squishy, vibrantly coloured trees. As she navigated the maze of lollipop-shaped bushes and chocolate-chip-covered pathways, she spotted a peculiar sight, a gnome-sized cottage constructed entirely of gingerbread. Smoke curled from its chimney, carrying with it the unmistakable aroma of snickerdoodles. Pepper tiptoed toward the gingerbread cottage, her heart hammering a frantic rhythm against her ribs. Sneaking a peek through a window made of shimmering sugar candy, she saw a sight that made her jaw drop. There, amidst a chaotic clutter of mixing bowls and whisks, stood the delivery gnome, his beard dusted with flour and a mischievous glint in his eyes. But instead of the expected pile of Snickerdoodle Surprises, the gnome was surrounded by gummy worms, dozens of them, squirming in rainbow colours and overflowing from a giant cauldron. Confused, Pepper knocked on the gingerbread door. The gnome, startled, almost tripped over a tangle of gummy worms. He whipped around, his face turning the colour of a ripe blueberry. Hello there, little missy," he stammered, shoving the gummy worms deeper into the cauldron. "Just, experimenting with a new recipe for gummy surprise worms. Yes, that's it." Pepper raised an eyebrow, her detective instincts tingling. "Gummy surprise worms, huh? And where, pray tell? Did you acquire the recipe for such a peculiar treat? The gnome squirmed under her gaze. Finally, with a defeated sigh, he confessed. All right, you caught me. I did nab a peek at Mrs. Muffintop's recipe book while delivering flour. But I swear, I never intended to steal her cookies. I just wanted to add a little gummy goodness to my repertoire. Relief washed over Pepper. No villainous plot, just a case of misguided sweet-tooth ambition. She mused, tapping her chin with her magnifying glass. Perhaps we can work out a deal. You help me recreate the missing Snickerdoodle Surprises, using your gummy expertise to add a surprising, chewy twist, and in return, you get to be the first to taste them. The gnome's eyes widened like saucers. A Snickerdoodle surprise with a gummy center. That's genius. With newfound determination and a rumbling in her own stomach, Pepper and the gnome embarked on a whirlwind baking session. Flour flew, sugar swirled, and the aroma of Snickerdoodles, infused with a hint of gummy goodness, filled the air. By nightfall, they emerged from the gingerbread cottage, a tray of warm golden cookies proudly held between them. The next day, the annual Cookie Carnival was a resounding success. The Snickerdoodle Surprises with gummy middles became an instant sensation, their delightfully unexpected textures and flavors sending the crowd into a sugary frenzy. Mrs. Muffintop beamed with pride. The gnome received a lifetime supply of flour for his contribution, and Pepper, hailed as the hero who saved the Cookie Carnival, was showered with compliments and, of course, plenty of cookies. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow on Crumbly Corners, Pepper knew one thing for certain. In a town where sweets were a way of life, even the most puzzling mysteries could be solved with a dash of ingenuity and a whole lot of sugar.